Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick. We've been notably absent the last couple of weeks. Maureen and I have, in terms of what we've been doing. You notice Maureen is on screen with me. We want to talk about where we were the last 2 weeks, and that's in Uganda. So, Maureen, great vacation?
Oh, fabulous. It's called the Pearl of Africa, and it was our 30th anniversary of a couple, and pearl is the traditional gift, so it was quite apropos that we went there.
Oh, great time. We want to share our experiences there and recommend it very highly as a tourist destination. I'll just say that. And I think I speak for Maureen and I in this way. There's a fair amount of overhead in the trip that has to be considered. Fair enough to say, Maureen?
Yeah, not just money, but also your time. It took us a full 24 hours airport to airport, not including the time to get to the airport. And, obviously the airport's not your final destination. So, um, yeah.
That said, pretty happy given what's going on in the world right now. We traveled when we did. We got back just in time before travel in the Middle East was breaking down. Honestly, probably would not have affected us anyway. We flew from Dulles to Istanbul to Kigali, Rwanda, and then to Entebbe finally. Same Entebbe from the 1970s that the Israelis raided after a plane of theirs got hijacked. And 24 hours of travel each way. So it's a substantial amount of overhead. Now, we travel to see animals, and that's what we really went for. There's a time change. Maureen was very smart about this. There was a wait for luggage kind of there's always a fear that your luggage is going to get lost. And if your luggage gets lost, you probably go without it for the entire trip, right?
Yep, that's what the agent told us. So we had 2 days in Entebbe to make sure that our luggage made it. And those 2 days were really needed for us to catch up on some
Mhm.
sleep because I think for me, I was 40 hours without sleep and really needed a full day to kind of get my bearings.
So it may not be possible for everyone, but I highly recommend decompression days on the road like this to kind of make it through these long travel periods. One of the things you'll face when you get there is very bumpy roads. So hotels are wonderful. The people are great. The food is fantastic. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but everything about the service and everything really terrific. But the roads themselves are very tough. And you drive from Entebbe, it's about 34 kilometers away from Kampala, which is the capital. Kampala kind of has some problems with being not a great area to go to, but Entebbe is very nice. It's their first city. It's right on, I guess, what is right on Lake Victoria, or a kind of a tributary of Lake Victoria right there, and it's a very nice place. But it's not where you do any of your animal sightings. Your animal sightings are in the southwestern portion of the country, which you drive to over the course of about 12 to 15 hours. We had a great driver for the trip. Have a separate video with him I want to point you to. He can help you a lot if you want to consider going to Uganda, or have questions about it. But loved our driver. You too?
Yeah, it was great. And you can do tours of Lake Victoria by boat in Entebbe. We just chose not to do that. We just caught up on sleep, got a massage, took it easy. But they do offer tours, and that's one of the places where you can see the saddlebill stork.
We didn't have a problem with our luggage, but we did meet two Italian people on the way home who lost their luggage and basically didn't have it for the whole trip. One man, so it was unfortunate in that regard. He bought some
Yeah,
new
and
clothes, and
a
he
lot
was
of the places that we visited, they don't have stores. So, the market isn't open every day. Um, the store that they went to a market at night. There was no lighting. They're trying to use the flashlight on their phone to see. And, the guy was telling us he bought a t-shirt and it basically ended mid-chest on him.
Mhm.
And that was the only shirt he had to wear. So
He was a tall, thin guy.
yeah,
Ugandans, they tend to be thin in general. I would say we didn't see a lot of really heavy people over there. But anyway,
and everybody
one thing we
walks a
did
lot.
see was a lot of knockoff clothes that had obviously been imported from places like China and whatnot. They have a very close connection with the Chinese. The Chinese are there developing industry and whatnot, particularly the oil industry, trying to exploit that there. But Maureen saw a sweatshirt that said Botson Celtics.
Celtics.
Botson. And there's only one way you get something like that misspelled is you get a cheap knockoff. Someone misspells the name and then they have to sell it somewhere. And people are just happy that the Celtics logo looks fine. It's just the spelling of the city that was kind of funny. But anyway, I would really encourage you to look at the video from our driver. He has some great points about the country, things you see, and we have another one from a guide for the gorillas that I want to get to later. But the main thing he provided not only was as a planner, he got us to the spots on time and he got us through some very difficult roads. I would say he is the Lamar Jackson of drivers, and in two ways, in the way you'd expect, but also in the way that you move at 20 miles per hour, and every one of your movements is to set up avoidance of the next pothole. Instead of the next tackle. It's very much a deliberate way you have to kind of go on the roads over a number of hours. The Jeeps you ride in are very nice. They have power in them. But there's a limited ability to use your laptop, for example, because you just have no ability to use a mouse or a cursor. I guess you could stream on it if you brought the video with you. Anyway, lots of potholes on the road, lots of Chinese trucks destroying the road as well. The only really large trucks tend to be Chinese ones, and they run over every pothole. Of course, when you run over a pothole, you create a bigger pothole. Trucks get stuck from time to time. In fact, one thing you'll notice is most of the GDP of the country seems to be running on mini bikes. And you think there are limitations on what you can carry on a mini bike? All of those will be exceeded by what you see Ugandans carrying on mini bike. Rebar steel, hundreds and hundreds of eggs at once. Families of 4 traveling on a mini bike. Their entire taxi system is mini bike related. So very very specific to that country. We've seen it before other places, but this is really extreme in this country.
Yeah, most of the roads are not paved, and on previous safaris, you've complained about how bumpy the Jeeps were on the safari drives, and the ride in the car was one of the safari drives we encountered. Just getting from place to place.
So very much. So anyway, that's a lot of the overhead. We don't want to take a lot more time on that. It was tough, but it is what it is. Kind of want to start with some of the pictures as we talk through the 12 or 14-hour drive into the southwest corner of the country, and you break that up over a period of days, which is good. And you see sightings in there. You have stops at various lodges, and you spend nights and do things. And I want to kind of show you some of the pictures of what we saw. So Maureen, talk through one of our first things, which was to go see chimpanzees somewhat west of Entebbe.
Yeah, so this was in the Chibali National Park, the second largest national park in the country. And one of the reasons why we went to Uganda was really to see chimpanzees and gorillas. And, you hike, and it's a pretty easy hike to see the chimpanzees. It's flat terrain. But we didn't see any chimpanzees at ground level. They were all up in trees. Mm-hmm. But it was pretty exciting to see them.
This is our first of several kind of jungle walks during this trip. And sometimes you're in a Jeep, but most of the time you're actually out trekking. We took a swamp tour, but this was a jungle tour. And if you are offered a porter, don't say, "Oh, I can carry my own stuff." Take it right away. The porter does a lot of things for you for $20 for 4 hours or so. They carry your backpack, they carry extra water for you, but most importantly, they keep you away from the dangerous insects. So if their insects are going to bite you, they say, "Oh, watch out for those ants there. They can be difficult or they can hurt." You don't want to get in that wasp nest. And there's lots of like ants like roaming across the trail at various points you really want to be careful about. They also hold back the bushes for you so you don't get slapped in the face consistently by the person in front of you. So that's very helpful. So the porters, they do a lot in terms of guiding you through. You have a guide also. Go for the labor intensive nature of this. Pay the porter the money. 1 porter per person you should definitely take on a trip like this.
Yeah, the porter helped me from falling down.
I I remember I saw this one. Was it the guide or the guide on the swamp tour in particular kept you from falling down and having
Yes.
trouble with the logs we were walking across?
Yeah.
And I want to set this to run properly here. Yeah, here we go. So I'll just show you a few shots from the chimpanzees. They're adorable. Seeing primates is the big difference between safari here and safari in other African countries. So we've been to Kenya and South Africa, both
In Zambia.
and Zambia. Zambia, we didn't really go on safari, but in the other two, perfectly wonderful places. There are a couple overriding differences, but the major differences, the major difference is the ability to see primates in Uganda is really special. So that's what they had there. You have the big five are all present. The one we didn't see was rhinos. You see a little bit of difference in the photos that came off my phone and Maureen's camera. Maureen's camera photos look a lot better. I think that's the one we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to the
Here's some
second.
baboons.
Yeah, baboons by the side of the road they're everywhere. They're all over the road, and they're a big pest. Apparently, baboons are the one animal you're allowed to kill if they come on your property. That there's no questions asked about that. And baboons, very destructive. They come in, you destroy all your crops. They'll go into your house and
Destroy everything in your house.
And they'll watch your house to see when you're out, so that they can call their family in and go in and rip your house apart. Apparently, so. I want to talk about the second tour we took here. And Maureen, I'll let you kind of start us off here. We went on the swamp tour and saw some really interesting things.
Yeah, so the swamp tour is conducted by the villagers as opposed to the Ugandan Wildlife Society. And I don't think we're quite there yet. Some Cape buffalo. But again, our guide actually took these photos and took amazing photos. This is the blue turaco, which is unique bird, pretty interesting looking.
Big.
A lot of people go there to see it. Yeah, it's fairly big. There are two kinds of turacos. We saw both of them. This is the blue one. There's also a Ross's turaco.
All right. You saw 4 monkey species on this trip.
Mm-hmm.
We saw colubuses and monkeys and
red tails.
Yeah, red-tailed red-tailed monkey, and it's a red colobus as well.
Red colobus,
one of the enemies of the chimpanzees. I think they have kind of a frenemy relationship, actually, but chimpanzees can end up eating them at times. So anyway, we went on and moved on to Queen Elizabeth Park. It's another few hours to the west along a difficult road in Uganda. Saw a number of things there. This is just a warthog that was at one of the things. The warthog's an interesting place in the ecosystem. This is one of the things. We saw mongooses here at Queen Elizabeth. And the mongooses and the warthogs have a relationship that is really symbiotic here. The warthogs want to be cleaned off and preened, and the mongooses are perfectly happy to do that. So they go eat the bugs off warthogs, and the warthogs will just lie there like they are doing here and let them do it. So pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that warthog isn't dead. They just know if they lie down that the banded mongoose will come and groom them and eat all the bugs off their body. So it was pretty cool to see.
Banded mongooses, they have extensive research of them there done, and the researchers took us out there. They used a little radio thing they have to find the collars on the mongooses, which are giving off signals to them, and they're able to get to them, and they get close, and they make a little call.
And they all come running. It was a little scary at first to have all of a sudden they just start running towards you at their full speed. That was a little scary, but they were just there looking for a treat.
Yeah, they don't want to give them too much, but they have some kibble they give to them automatically when they show up. And as part of the funding of the research of these things is the visitor amounts. It's a very cheap tour, by the way. It's very inexpensive, and all these places. I mean, the tip amounts you're talking about are small. For $20 in tips, you get a nice 2-hour experiences, and you walk right up to the mongooses. It's not like other places where these aloof animals are 50 yards away and you have to maintain a certain
and
distance.
They hear the Jeep and they run off. And here they are accustomed to people, they're accustomed to the researchers. So they come right up to you and you can observe them and ask whatever questions you want to learn about them. It's very interesting.
We
And
got a
here we have
little
a lion at sunset or sunrise.
and couple young lions here that we saw. And then this was interesting, the tree climbing lions. Now, I didn't even know lions climb trees. Leopards, for that. But
Yeah, they really only do in Uganda. I think there are a few places in the world where lions climb trees, and this just happens to be one of them. And Queen Elizabeth Park wasn't even one of the places where I was interested in going because, we'd done safari before, but I thought it was pretty cool to see this and it helped break up the drive. So it was well worth the stop.
yeah, very cool. And they're in a Ugandan cactus, which is one of the trees that shows up fairly commonly there on the savannah. All right, we got a few more. This is vervet monkeys, right?
Yep. It was a
All
baby
right.
vervet. Doesn't even have its hair yet.
Oh, wow. Another vervet in a tree. This is a black and white colobus here. They're beautiful.
White colobus.
What? That's a
Here's a
white
leopard.
colobus?
Yeah, it's a white colobus. That's the name of it.
We need to tell a little bit of story about the leopards here because we've been on safari multiple times and spent over 50 hours in the Jeep trying to see leopards. And we got a couple of really craptastic sightings of leopards. One, a football field away of just a rear end of a leopard. Another one where we got reasonably close, but the encounter lasted about 30 seconds. And then the leopard decided to run off. And it's been one of the big five we've never gotten any kind of reasonable sighting of. There is a veterinary doctor, who is running a tour in Uganda where they collar the leopards, and you can notice this one is wearing a collar. This is a mother, I think. Yeah, this is the mother of two cubs. And they also have the grandmother of those two cubs is also collared. And they're very easy to find. Obviously, they just use a radio and they're able to find their last space. We go right to them. Our driver was terrific here. He understood exactly where to back up so that our Jeep would get approached by the leopard, and the leopard actually used our Jeep for shade. And you said, okay, sure, I'll lie down right here. They're highly habituated because this tour has been run roughly 1,000 times for the oldest of these leopards. So they're very confident and very aware of exactly what's going on. They say, oh, it's that time of day. Okay, sure, I'll enjoy the shade for a while. And she sits there, and we've got good video of her. I think that's coming up here. I hope it is in a minute. So that was right by, this is.
Let me tell you about the online cannabis company that's changing the game, Mood.com. They created an entirely line of functional gummies, 100% federally legal THC blends, discreetly delivered right to your doorstep. And here's the best part. You can get 20% off your first order at Mood.com with the promo code RAVENS. Now, I've tried a bunch of their gummies myself. Each one's totally unique. The Sleepy Time gummies knock me out right away. They help me unwind fast, leave me refreshed the next morning. The Epic Euphoria gummies, they're perfect for when your day just isn't going the way you want it to go. What makes Mood special is how they pair the THC with natural herbs and adaptogens. You won't find blends like this at any local shop. They've got gummies designed for focus, relaxation, clarity, even energy, all made from cannabis grown on small, family-owned American farms. No pesticides, no shortcuts, just high-quality weed you can trust. Plus, Mood backs everything with a 100-day satisfaction guarantee. So head on over to Mood.com, check out their amazing selection, and don't forget to use the promo code RAVENS at checkout to save 20% off your first order.
Right by our Jeep, in fact. Right by the rear tile. So I'm getting this picture from about 6 to 7 feet away, just out of a window. I was afraid it's going to drop my phone here.
Yeah, I was a little afraid the leopard might leap up and bite your hand off, but we lucked out on that.
Yeah.
But I think it only costs like an extra $30 to get the permit to be able to drive off the road.
Yeah.
And that was so worth it. So I'm glad that we did that, and our tour company signed us up for that.
If you decide to go to Uganda, do not go cheap on the off-road, on-road stuff, or not getting a porter or something like that, you can ruin your experience for a trivial amount of money. And the total dollars are not that big for the individual excursions. What costs a lot is the airfare to go there.
Yep.
If you don't get good weather, you can cost yourself it can cost you some money, but generally speaking, don't cheap out on that. All right. The way out, we saw hippos. You just want to show that we saw, most of the big five here. This is a solo male hippo stranded from his group. It's you get tossed out of the family kind of if you're a non-dominant male hippo and you have to go find your own place to live. This guy found his, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we saw more hippos than we had ever seen before. Uganda has no water deficit, so they have a lot of crater lakes, and with water everywhere, there's plenty of places for hippos to be.
Yeah, Lake Victoria is there. It's a mountainous region, so you're up higher in a kind of a cloud forest. There's no shortage of water, period, so you can take showers there and not have to worry about things. And South Africa, for example, has been like a continual drought, it seems, for a long period of time, and they had hardly any water. And Kenya as well, and even the hippo places there are losing some of their hippo population. We went on a boat tour, and I don't know if we've got pictures from this. Yeah, this is from the boat tour. We probably saw, and I want to try and not exaggerate this, we probably saw 10 to 15 hippo families with an average of 20 to 30 individuals each. So we might have seen, close to 500 hippos during this single day. I mean, it's 10 times the number of hippos that I'd ever seen previously.
Yeah, that was in the Kazinga Channel, and you can take, it was a nominal amount of money. You can take a boat tour there. Again, that tour is run by the villagers and very inexpensive, and you got to see a lot of animals.
Yeah, it's very cool. The woman who ran it was outstanding. She knew all the animals and even the birds that I didn't really care about. She knew about those as well. So it was well done. All right. I don't know if we have any pictures of the next. And we're on our way to our next place. We saw an elephant by the side of the road. You get just the close-up sightings here. The density of animal population are both something we wanted to try and capture in this. But you really see things very close, and they're like whatever. We also get this is a really good road, by the way. This is an outstanding road in Uganda.
They do have some paved roads, but not for long stretches. The cities have paved roads, but when you're going from lodge to lodge, obviously you're not driving from city to city.
Right.
So, yeah. And you also saw a forest elephant when we were near the gorillas, and the forest elephants are really what creates the paths that you walk on throughout the forest.
Right. Definitely true. I'm trying to see if we have any pictures here.
These are the gorillas.
We're the gorillas now. Okay. Well, let's not bury the lead here. What you really go to Uganda for is to see primates, chimpanzees, but also the gorillas are really the star. The mountain gorillas, which are only in 3 countries in the entire world right now. They're in Uganda, Rwanda, and they're in the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
And you don't want to go to the DRC.
That has some significant turmoil going on. In fact, the Ugandan military is kind of defending the southwest border of their country to try and make sure that rebels don't kind of flee into their country to try and escape nationalist forces, I suppose, that might be fighting there. So the entire that 3-country area is in a very small region where the gorillas are. There's about 7 volcanoes around there, and it's an intense
dormant volcanoes.
Dormant, yes. It's an intense gorilla area. The population had dipped to about 300. They were critically endangered. I don't know.
Now they're just endangered.
Now they're just endangered. They're up over 1,000 in the latest census. They think it'll be higher than that when they take a census again. They've identified all these families. Most of them have been habituated, meaning that you can go there. They're like, oh, humans, great, and it's an hour. You get up taking photographs, and they act like you're not here. We went on something called a habituation experience, which I was a little bit reluctant to do because it's 4 hours instead of 1 hour with the gorillas. But the habituation experience was interesting because the gorillas, in theory, aren't really ready for humans to be there. But I can just tell you, they were completely ready for us. They were like 75% habituated, these guys, and they you get very close. So that's always the question they ask is, how close can you get to the animals? And we got pictures in here that are taken. This was taken at probably 3 meters distance. So we're 10 feet away or less. And this is probably about the same. He's not slapping at me. He's slapping at a bug or something there. These guys are just fat and happy and able to eat all day. What was your big takeaway from the gorillas? Because there's some things about the hike and to see the gorillas are very difficult.
Yeah, the hike was pretty strenuous. The altitude alone made the hike difficult. It's pretty muddy.
Mhm.
Again, I had a porter, so we actually had 2 porters, but I think I used them both. I don't think you took advantage of either one of them. And I had one pulling my hand and the other one behind me pushing me up. So it's and if you're unable to do the hike, they do have what they call an African helicopter, which is basically putting you on a stretcher and taking you to the gorillas that way. I think that would be more scary than actually walking. And I will say the walk was a little scary. I did scream a couple times thinking I was going to fall, but I didn't actually fall. I think you and the other tourist did fall, but no one got hurt. And yeah, it was
I
pretty
ended up with
amazing.
0 dirt on my rear end. I was proud to come out of it like that. But I will say it's the most difficult thing I've done as an adult physically. Now, when I was a kid, Troop 35 had a 40-mile hike, and I was in that, and 3 times was involved. I went 35, 40, 40. That's by far the most physical thing I did lifetime. That was all done by the time before I was 14 years old. In this jungle setting, you go through a dense jungle, and I mean, a lot of things you really have to make room yourself. They do carry a machete on this one, and they can take back the forest as needed. And we're fortunate, I think, to come in after forest elephants who make tracks for you. They're muddy tracks by the time you get there, and they're also poop-filled tracks often as you go through this. There's a lot to avoid. But there's ants. There's a whole bunch of other things that are attracted then to the elephants. Wasps, yeah. We had a little bit of time with wasps, but the gorillas are so worth it in terms of what you see. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just beautiful creatures. You see them up at no distance at all. Now, I was amazed at how the guides and the trackers and all the people involved. You go up for 3 people, you end up having a party of about 10 people. You have a guide, you have a couple of trackers that are left there to make sure they know where the family is, and you have 2 other rangers who go with you who carry AK-47s, and they're ready to deal with things if things got dangerous. But these creatures are so beautiful, and they're always encouraging you to get even closer than you are. We went with one other guy from Toronto, or from Ontario anyway, who was very respectful in terms of sharing the opportunity to get photographs and whatnot, which was terrific. That was something we heard was bad on other people's trips.
Yeah, people who didn't do the habituation.
Some
But
beautiful pictures.
yeah, the mountain gorillas I just thought were amazing. And as difficult as the trek was, seeing them made it all worth it.
Mhm.
And we needed a full day to recover afterwards. We had something planned the next day, and we were both too wiped out to do that, and just really hung around the hotel. But seeing them was just incredible. And that's
This
our
is
group.
a group including porters and us. They give you these walking sticks, and you do need them. You will
Yes.
you will learn how to use a walking stick out of necessity from this process. A lot of up and down travel, very muddy, very dense in terms of the vegetation. Your total walk is probably only about 6 to 7 miles, I would say. So you do two and a half hours in, 2.5 hours out. and you do up to 4 hours with the gorillas, but we only did about 1.5. We knew that we were wiped out already by the altitude and needed to go back. And you get so many good pictures, frankly, within that 1.5 hours. You don't need it. And I did kind of, for half the price, you can go for an hour, but you have more people that you have to contend with, is the
Yeah.
problem. And
Our
then
group was only 3, and the habituation experience, it's limited to 4 people. And the price that we paid for that is the same price that you would pay if you were to go to Rwanda. So it's much cheaper to see gorillas in Uganda.
Yeah, so it's about $1,500 per person if you go for the 4 hour trip. If you went for the 1 hour with the gorillas, then you can do it for only $750. So if you're budget conscious, that is a place where you might want to save money and also save yourself, because you're going to still spend about 5 hours probably tracking these gorillas, finding them, getting set up, and then spending your time with them. So there is a fair amount involved. Well, I'll
Yeah.
close this out in terms of the pictures here. What was really common themes I want to get into about this: people are extremely friendly. Kind of feel like the king and queen of England going around, because every child in the whole country waves at your Jeep as you go by, and you want to wave back at them. They're all smile at you and whatnot. It's a good feeling. Very fertile volcanic soil there. So we think of a lot of Africa as having problems with famine and with other things. And I'm not saying there's not any problems with food in Uganda at all, because I really don't know. But I'll say this: the soil is incredibly fertile, and they cultivate it mostly by hand. Even on the mountainsides where you're near the gorillas, you see people out there hoeing by hand. Avocados are the freshest and best you'll ever taste. The eggs are
Bananas,
very good.
pineapples, mangoes. I think the best mangoes we've ever had.
It's great stuff, and it's a high portion of what you get is fruit, and for me, egg and avocado sandwiches. So I asked for that special, and they made it, and it was just wonderful. No problems with water. You still need to use filtered water. You want to be careful about that. Don't just drink Ugandan water out of the tap. You'll probably learn that before you go, but get all your shots, and then you can use the water for showering and whatnot. You're fine. Varied landscapes I thought were really wonderful on this thing. So you get these wonderful vistas, you get sunsets, you get mountains, you get these beautiful volcanic lakes that are perfectly still. You get hard rushing rivers as well. You get these rivers with
And the savannah.
and the savannah looks like very much like a traditional savannah, with these individual trees spaced out a long way between them, which looks really weird to us as Americans. We didn't see any other Americans there for
Yeah.
2 weeks. Zero other Americans. And that was really weird. But the main people who go there seem to be Germans, people from the UK, as a UK colony originally, and then also a few people from Spain we saw as well. But those seem to be the major visiting countries. I think
I think that's part of the reason why we're doing this, is to let Americans know that, hey, you should really go to Uganda, because it's a fabulous place to go. And even if you, well, I would recommend, don't just go there to see the chimps and gorillas, but stay there to visit Queen Elizabeth Park and see the Big Five, because that to me was just as incredible as seeing everything else. And I think you get a better picture of the whole country, by experiencing everything they have to offer.
Yeah. So varied wildlife experiences. I think, one of the things we talked about, the roads and some of the overhead getting there. You have just as much overhead getting to South Africa, but it's probably not as hard once you're at Kruger National Park or the outskirts of it to move around from park to park, or to use the roads there. Are certainly not as bad. But here's the thing. Places like South Africa, like Kenya, are much more heavily traveled by tourists. They're much more, lots of Jeeps around, all competing for things. We have stories about that we don't have to get into, but I think Uganda will explode once the roads get better. I think, everybody's going to want to go there, because there's so much more to see and so much more variation in terms of the wildlife experience.
And it's not as crowded. Like when we did the chimpanzee experience, there was 4 of us in the group, and our gorilla trek wasn't full. There was only 3 of us, and it'll take up to 4.
Yeah, we went right at the start of rainy season or the end of the high season, and tourism will go way down there. Um, I think this is true of the rainy season as well, but your rain comes at a specific time during the day, kind of like in Hawaii. It's in the late afternoon. You're right at the equator. You saw the picture of us. Actually, we got at the equator, but you're right at the equator within a few miles. And I, the rainy season lasts 3 months, but it probably is more local to the time in terms of they know how to work around it. Now you can get rain that's very heavy and you're still wet the next day, and we got some of that. But if you can deal with the mud, and I think it's not too much of a big deal, then I found it just to be a fabulous experience.
Yeah, we had gators. I strongly recommend using gators and doing your activities in the morning and having the afternoon free.
Yeah. If you're one of those people, and at my age, this is something I really demand. Maureen plans all our trips, but and thanks, babe, for that. But I really demand half a day of activity per day. The other thing is I don't want to go to any religious sites, or maybe 1 per trip, but I'm not going to 5 per trip. Uh, the other thing that was nice, and we didn't quite find a way to get in, was to see some brick making. And there's a lot of brick making in the country. A lot of the housing is made of bricks and whatnot, and a lot of people make bricks and collect their supply of them. But I really want to go kind of see how did they do it, because they had these big kilns out there. But that would have been fun, but we didn't get a chance.
Next time.
Next time. All right. Well, thanks for planning the trip, Maureen. Had a great time. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll have 2 related videos out there, one from our gorilla guide and one from our driver. Please take a look at that. If you have questions about going to Uganda, definitely worth a discussion with those folks. And we'll leave their contact information in the comments to those videos. So go out and look on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.